Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Blue Box Banter, a Doctor Who recap podcast done by two ex-Doctor Who addicts now revisiting their nostalgic obsession. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy our unhinged and easily distracted recap of this episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah, I don't really know how I feel about this episode. Because, I don't feel like anybody was really acting in character.
Yeah, it was sorry, I didn't even realize we were recording. I was just goofing off.
No, it's okay.
No, it was such an out-of-character episode because, one, Rose has been kind of off and on, kind of, bratty.
Yeah.
But this was, almost
right.
it was okay, this isn't where you want her character to go.
No.
Because the next couple episodes, she's completely different.
She's fine. Maybe this one was just, her reset button.
I don't know, but she already had a reset button in the last couple of episodes
with Adam.
So, I don't know why she suddenly... Because when, her whole thing is that she wants to go see her dad, the day he died, so that she can be there for him, which is such a random thing for her to bring up.
The episode opens with, a flashback of Jackie, telling her about her dad, basically, and, how he died alone, which, why would you tell your child that? That's so sad.
I feel like how the episode could have been written is Rose wanting to go back to a different family event and accidentally, because the TARDIS will do what it wants, accidentally being sent to the day that he dies, and realizing, oh shit, I have to be there for him, and realizing that he died alone.
Yeah.
No, the way they set it up was, weird, because she just kind of brings it up out of nowhere, instead of being would it be possible to, see my dad?
Yeah.
And just, ask the doctor, and maybe the doctor's being no, you can't do that, or being yeah, as long as you stay out of the way.
Yeah.
But no, the way she, approaches it to him is so weird and just out of nowhere.
There's no lead up.
Yeah.
It's not maybe if there was something about how maybe she on her phone it tells her what date it is back home, and maybe the date is Father's Day or it's the day he died, something to remind her. It really feels a little out of the blue.
They had this idea and they didn't know how to
execute it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's such an interesting idea of her having to go back. It's a heavy, this season is heavy.
Yeah, that's...
It goes well with, how heavy the theme of, the whole season has such a theme of, death and, you can't stop it.
Yeah.
That it goes well with it, and I think it could have been such an interesting episode, but, the editing
so
of it, even the video editing, it was so, jarring.
There's a lot of points, there's a lot of things that are set up in this episode that I do like when it's brought back later, even just Pete as a whole. I do find interesting. I hate the time travel trope of kid goes back to meet parent and parent tries to hit on grown-up version of kid.
He didn't even try to hit on her. It was Jackie that assumed.
Yeah.
Which is, ugh.
And the way that it implies that he is unfaithful on the regular, or Jackie assumes he is, which frames her as an abusive partner.
Because the whole thing is that Rose grew up thinking that her dad was the best, because Jackie always framed him as the best dad ever. And then, which I like the concept of Rose growing up thinking that her dad is this great, and if he had lived, he could have been this great inventor, and then going back in time and realizing her parents had a strained relationship. That's an interesting reality. The way they went about it, though, uncomfortable.
Well, because, it's very normal for when a person passes for them to get murdered by the living, essentially. You see that all the time, where it's your grandparent was, terrible to your parent for, the back half of their life, but then as soon as they're dead, all they can do is talk about the good stuff, which is fine. Yeah. It's a very normal reaction to, death. And so that's one thing, but for it to be framed like that, and then it immediately jumps to Jackie being very awful.
That's the thing that's weird, because if they wanted to frame Pete as, this kind of not great dad, but Jackie really built at building him up as this great dad. Instead, they were Jackie's actually the bad parent.
Yeah.
Which made no sense for that episode. They could have just had Jackie be herself and be kind of annoying.
Because that's how she is. this is one of the things that, because, like, Jackie, in and of herself, I feel like it has a little bit of an open discussion about the misogyny of older women in this series, like, how they're written.
And the mother-in-law
The
trope.
mother-in-law trope, the fact that
The
she's...
catty mother.
Like, even just what we talked about in, like, Aliens of London, where we, as the audience, because we know what Rose and the Doctor have been up to, we're like, oh my god, Jackie is being so unreasonable. Meanwhile, it's 100% justified how she's feeling. And so instead of it being, like, her having to be like, Pete, like, you can't quit your job to follow another, like, potential, like, $1 million idea you have. Like, we have to put a roof over our head. We just had a baby.
Yeah.
Like, that's such an easy way for them to have done it, but for it, instead it to be like, you're such a fucking lazy, like, asshole and you're cheating on me all the time. You're like,
Whoa.
what? Huh? Why did we have to go straight to that?
Especially since it's not framed in, like, a comedic way. It's framed in, like...
It's not even real way.
It's not even framed in a dramatic way. It's in, like, a... You know when your parent you're at your friend's house and
their parents start arguing,
and you're
yeah.
like, ugh.
And your like friend is like trying to talk over them because they're like trying to ignore it too.
That's just how, and it's not interesting.
No, it's just kind of a bummer, and well, anyway, we kind of jumped forward a little bit, but so they land. If I remember correctly, there was
I also think it's out of character for the Doctor to agree to do this.
100%.
Because he agrees immediately, almost like he's like, "Are you sure you want it?" And I can understand it as a lesson that the Doctor wants to teach Rose about how you can't change, which is how it's starting to frame as.
But the fact that he goes back a second time,
yeah, and he almost like after. With basically any like little pushback, he's like, "Yeah, we'll do that," which could either like say a lot about him, how soft he is for Rose, but in this case, it seems just a little bit out of character. Maybe I would say like he would be like, "Okay, we can do this, but not your father's death," and then accidentally ends up there or something like that. Like the way that he immediately is like, "Yeah, well, let's go watch your dad die."
Like, let's go see your parents' wedding, and then the TARDIS as want to do accidentally goes to and then she has to have the moment of, oh my god, this isn't their wedding, because even like, I'm sorry, I just had like a revelation. It's literally set up as a wedding. Like, it would have been so easy for her to show up and be like, oh, there's the church, like the TARDIS landed us at the wedding, so obviously this is the wedding. And then you see Pete get out of his car and he's not in a groomsman outfit, he's in the outfit that Jackie has a picture of
on the day that he died.
On the day that he died, and she sees him holding the vase. And then she just like has like a breakdown because she's like, oh my god, this isn't my parents' wedding, this is the day he dies. Oh my god, he died alone, I have to be there for him. And that would have been so much better.
And I think then the Doctor would have been more okay with her being there.
Yeah.
Because he knows what it's like to lose things, and I think he would be a lot more sympathetic, but the way that she also brings it up to him, it's not like a, like, hey, this thing is, like, really important to me. It's, I don't know, the acting is, Billie Piper's a great actress. This episode was so weird. Like,
even Christopher Eccleston was a little off his game.
I don't know, like, who directed the episode, because
it's probably the directing. I don't.
Yeah, because
they're both good actors.
Yeah, it wasn't directed by RTD. It was by some man named Joe. Joe, I don't know.
I have not heard this name before.
He doesn't. I mean, he doesn't have like a specific Wikipedia page, so he's obviously not like a big time director. So I think maybe that has, because like the acting is what I think. If the acting had been better, the episode would have been watchable. Yeah. But it's like, it's so stilted, it seems a little bit out of character, and when and the part where they go back and he's like, okay, you get one more try, and then Rose goes to save him, that feels in character. And the Doctor immediately getting upset and being like, are you seriously just using me for your own gain? Like, that feels so, like, such an important thing for them to discuss, whether, like, she's literally just using him as a reason to go back and change her own life.
Well, that was like, because he says later on in the episode, we're kind of jumping around a bit this time.
He calls her a stupid ape.
He calls her a stupid ape, but also he's like, when I picked you up and I told you, like, we could go anywhere in space, you said no, and then I said it goes in time, and then you said yes. Was this your plan all along?
Yeah.
And you're just like, dude, you don't think that. Like, don't...
But I can understand it be the way that I said it. I can understand why he had to question her.
Yeah. It feels like...
It feels like that was an important conversation for them to have, but it just didn't happen.
It feels like like this feels like their first like true like lovers quarrel because it's completely unreasonable and they're not communicating properly. Yeah. They're just all caught up in emotions. It feels like the doctor suddenly like thinking that Rose is a gold digger. Like I've been dating this girl forever and all of a sudden she's asking me for a lot of money. Is this been your plan the whole time?
Yeah,
like,
it's weird because you would think you would be a little bit more sympathetic for her own like.
Yeah.
Because she didn't plan it, and obvious, like, she would have saved him the first time if she had planned it. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like an impulsive decision of, like, oh, crap, I'm going to watch my dad die. I can't do that. Like, she's not strong enough to watch that. I can understand his frustration, like, his knee-jerk reaction. Yeah. But the way that he continues is just, it feels weird.
He just throws a tantrum the whole
And
episode.
then Rose throws another tantrum back where she's like, You'll come crawling back to me. I know how lonely you are. And she would have never said that to him. No. She wouldn't have leveraged his own loneliness.
No. Like, this is one of those cases where...
It is a funny line, though.
It's pretty ridiculous. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, you know, the whole run of this season, we've been talking about how Rose is 19 this entire time. Mm-hmm. And... this doesn't even feel like, oh, she's a 19-year-old.
No, it makes her feel like a 16-year-old. Like, she's a child.
She's not, like, emotionally rational in this scene. And neither's the doctor, in all fairness. The pair of them are really, like, not the thing. But,
It wasn't written or directed by RTD or any... It was literally... It was directed by Joe... I don't know how to pronounce his name. And written by a man named Paul Cornell. So, yeah, like, Russell T. Davies was not involved in this episode, and it's very obvious.
He contributed an episode to Elementary. He's also written a number of British comics, as well as Marvel Comics and DC, and his 6 original novels published in addition to his Doctor Who fiction.
See, I think, because obviously this is the first season, so I'm not, like, trying to trash on this director or writer, because it's probably their first time doing Doctor Who, but I think it's one of those episodes where it's insanely obvious that it wasn't the showrunner writing the characters, which is fine, because I think that there are episodes, like in the newer seasons, where a fresh set of eyes is good. Yes. It's refreshing. This is an episode where it just felt like Doctor Who fanfiction.
Yeah, it fell through a little bit. I think that's a really good way of putting it, because the idea of Rose going back and, like, meeting her dad does really feel like
It's a bit tropey.
Yeah. And that's, I think, where you get stuff like the line about, like, oh, was this the reason you're using me this whole time? Like, that feels very fan-fiction-y. Apparently, this is one of the 3 Doctor Who episodes nominated that year for a Hugo Award.
I assume it didn't win.
I don't believe so.
Oh, it was nominated alongside Dalek and the Empty Child / the Doctor Dances. So
what?
And the Empty Child / the Doctor Dances is the one that won.
Obviously, I guess like
it is interesting that this episode had a very positive. I think. I mean, at the time it was probably positive. I think rewatching it afterwards, because Billie Piper literally, apparently according to this Wikipedia article, said that it was her favorite episode of the first season, which is understandable, because it was like later like a very emotional episode for her character, and her father not being there for her is like, and being raised by a single mother is very important to her character. Yeah, I think I will say, because we started off the episode kind of talking a lot of trash about it. Yeah. It's just the first half of the episode.
The rest of the episode, like,
the second half is so good.
That's the thing, is the bones of the episode are very strong.
And the story, and I even liked the Reapers.
The Reapers were cool.
So, okay, let's just go back to the middle. Yeah. So Rose ends up saving her dad, and the doctor kind of storms off. Mm-hmm. Actually, they go back to Pete's and Jackie's house. And then the doctor storms off, and for some reason Rose just decides to hang out with her dad.
And Pete says, like, oh, you and your boyfriend are fighting.
And she's like, I don't know why everyone thinks we're dating. Like, because you look like you're dating. I don't know what to... But...
The doctor is always, like, he's, like on top of his companions, and he's like, why does everyone think that we're dating? And you're like, I wonder.
Rose is literally in his lap, like, we're not dating, what are you talking about?
I was gonna say, in his lap playing with his hair, but he doesn't have hair.
But it's so weird, because later, after this, Pete drives to the wedding, but also drives Rose with him.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is she still with him?
And well, because he comments on that. First of all, Rose whips out her cell phone, which, bestie, this is not the right time for that. But I will say, the one thing that I love about the through line with Pete in like both of his appearances is the fact that that's his Rose just like transcends all logic for him.
I mean, when they almost hit someone, Rose yells out like, "Watch out, Dad!" And he's immediately like, he clues in.
Yeah.
And he's like, "How? Like, I just knew. Like,
why do I trust you? Why am I driving you in my car? Why did I just give you my car keys?" Like, he like immediately trusts her, and I think it's such a sweet thing because, like,
especially with how the episode ends.
Yeah. It's just, for me, any time that there's a positive relationship between a father and a daughter is very sweet, because like you don't see a lot of that being focused on.
That's why I liked that they made him a flawed character.
Yes.
Like, and having Rose deal with the fact that he maybe wasn't the best provider, but he still like cared for her. Cared for her and Jackie a lot.
He's a good example of you can be a good person without being a great person. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
he's just an average guy.
He's just a dude. And that's, I think, really interesting because of how much Jackie martyrs him to, like, young Rose, and for her to show up and be like, he's just a dude.
I think it's interesting on Jackie's part, because obviously the reason she martyrs him is because that day that he died, she gives him a lot of crap. And then maybe after he dies, she realizes, like, oh man, I should have treated him a little bit better.
Yeah, like, I can't even imagine the guilt that she would be saddled with. Like, the day that your dad died, I was, like, ripping him a new one all day. Like, that must feel so awful. It's like, this is the person that you were married to and have a kid with, and the last thing you say to him is you're an idiot, basically. Like, that's crazy. And I love that, I don't want to jump all the way to the end, but like the fact that he basically sacrifices himself.
Because, well, I mean, this is later, but yeah, he realizes when he asks her about, like, am I a good dad and stuff, and she lies to him and tells him all this great stuff that he doesn't do, and he realizes, like, I wasn't there for you. I never would have done any of that. Yeah. He knows that he's not a great person, but he can do this one thing for her. Yeah. I thought that was very sweet. That's why I liked the second half of the episode.
Let's back up. We're really jumping a little over the place. The one thing that I do love at the beginning when the doctor shows up is because of the time period. There's Auntie Margaret Thatcher posting
up, yeah,
which kills me.
Is there a bad wolf? I think
so.
I don't have my notebook because I specifically wrote down like when the bad wolf, because I want to keep track, and I'm pretty sure it's on the. That's the thing that happens in like almost every episode now.
Yeah. But I just couldn't stop laughing at the, like, fuck Margaret Thatcher stuff, because I was like, me too, RTD. He has a few times where he bashes Thatcher, and I think that is so funny. But it's like, Pete dies, and then Rose is like, I fucked up, I want to redo, so the doctor brings her back again.
The first time, I think it's very interesting that she basically, like, is like, oh, she didn't run towards him when he got hit. She's frozen because she didn't think about the fact that she'd actually have to watch her dad die. Yeah. And so I do think it's nice that the doctor gives her a second chance. Yeah. I think the scene where she runs after him and the past doctor and Rose are like, what? Yeah. And then they just disappear. It's so funny.
It's like, so she saves him, and then all of the fight happens, and then she goes with Pete to the wedding of, like, the friend, I guess. And can we talk about the fact that the groom's dad is like, you still have the chance to get out, like, I know you knocked her up, but you're not obligated to marry her, and the kid's just like, I love her, you dipshit, like, shut the fuck up. Yeah. And he's being, like, bro, this was
2005 moment.
This is not a conversation to have on the wedding day. Like, hello?
I think it's funny how they show the, like, lower middle class families.
Oh my gosh.
It's very almost like, it feels very silly, but also like these are just normal people.
It feels very like Big Brother. Yeah. Like, it's like you're just, because there's an interesting conversation surrounding the plight of the middle class being exploited for the rich to laugh at, basically. Mm-hmm. So that's why shows like Maury are really popular, because you often will have like lower income families having to go on, and then it's funny because I don't have to experience these things. And this season of Doctor Who, especially because Jackie and Rose are both lower working class, it kind of leans into that a lot.
It's weird because in like Rose's perspective, she's very sympathetic to the working class in other places, but when they go back to 2005 London or wherever she lives, London, right? Yeah, it very much feels like they're making fun of the middle class, which is weird because they do a pretty good job of
this is set in the 80s, so like...
and then they go back in time and they're like, middle class people, we're all
getting knocked up on a one night stand. Jackie's hair.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Rose making a comment about it.
Yeah.
But okay, so before that happens, after they've like broken up or whatever, they have their lovers quarrel. The Doctor's like, I'll go back and she's gonna come crawling back to me, and then he opens up the TARDIS and it's just like empty.
A police box.
There's not even a police box, it's just empty.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh no!
This isn't
and like
good.
Runs back.
And then Rose is like, I knew it. I knew you'd come running back.
There's something going on.
And he's like, this isn't funny. Get in the church. And so the Reapers. I love the designs of the Reapers. Honestly,
I think the concept of time being set out of place and then having these like garbage men creatures having to reset the timeline and having the looping car that should have hit him.
That's really cool.
Is very interesting.
That's a great visual story.
Especially since you can see it in the background in some scenes, and like later Pete, like when he clues in to what's happening, it's a very interesting, like, it's a show don't tell kind of scene.
Yes.
And the Reapers, but the way that the Reapers, like, because I don't think they show it explicit at first, but it's like the Reapers, you see like a top-down shot of...
And it's like in like red vision.
Yeah, and it's like, oh no! And then they just disappear. But
which
later,
is my favorite thing
when they start eating people, it's kind of funny.
They look... Do you know what they look like? They look like, Lugia, the Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like, but like
mixed with like a face hugger.
Yeah, they're like the evil version of Lugia. But, it's just so...
It is funny though, I think the problem with this episode is that, not that Doctor Who cares about, like, continuity, but it does kind of mess up the continuity of any other episode where they accidentally save someone, because it's like, well, where are the Reapers?
Yeah. Oh well.
It's still an interesting concept.
So they go in the church, and Jackie continues to assume that Rose is his mistress.
Which, like, does she seriously think that little of him that he would have accidentally brought his mistress to a wedding?
And, like, just...
Where his kid and wife is?
And, like, him just being friendly to a woman seems like him cheating.
Epic 80s moment.
But this is... Okay, I don't even know where we are anymore. I feel like
we've just entered the church. The Doctor has explained that the reason the Reapers can't get in is because it's the oldest thing in the area, which is another weak point, because it's like, huh?
We'll get to that in a minute, because I have a couple thoughts about some stuff relating to that. One of my favorite parts of this episode, and it's just because, like, the costume. Okay, so the TARDIS key gets real hot, and the Doctor's like, oh, we can use this. So he takes off his leather jacket, and I'm like, so all of your shoulders is just the jacket?
Oh, yeah.
He looks so skinny.
This was like his shoulder reveal.
I was like, well, I mean, we already had it where they revealed the Doctor's nipples, but I was just like, I don't know what it is. Because of how bulky the coat is, he always looks so much wider.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you're normal size, like, whatever. But
it does make his shoulder, like, he is normal size, but it makes his shoulders look so skinny.
Because, like, it's like a Xerophale in his coat.
Oh my god. No, it's more like Crowley when he takes his jacket off and you realize David Tennant is just a skinny little man.
He's just the tiniest little guy.
I love the Doctor's, like, shirts.
Yes.
He has such a nice, like, green shirt in this episode.
He got his purple one, he's got his green one.
But this is, like, his green episode. And I'm like, it looks really good.
I love the very, like, autistic thought of him buying 30 of the exact same shirt, just in different colors.
It's been a while since we've talked about the Doctor's autistic riz.
He's It really just does not stop.
Speaking of costume design, Rose's hair in this episode is bananas.
What did she have this episode?
Her hair is just
right.
But you know when people would put their hair up in 2005?
Like a messy bun.
And it would just be a messy bun, but they also have strings everywhere
Yeah.
and like random... Like, she literally has random pieces of hair bobby pinned up, and then
Yeah.
other parts are in a ponytail.
It's a very 2000s look.
I think it weirdly looks good.
Well, because it's Billie Piper and she looks amazing in everything.
It's so funny how they managed to style messy hair. Like,
Yeah.
it looks natural, but it also looks good.
Yeah. The one... Okay, so this is my biggest issue with this episode. Mickey.
Oh, yeah.
This makes me so
So
uncomfortable.
what happens is I think this is when, like, Pete and Rose go to the back of the church to talk, and that's when he realizes that he's her dad.
Yes.
And then Jackie walks in and is like, "Oh, you seriously can't keep your hands up," or whatever. I don't know.
Rose calls Pete dad, and Jackie thinks it's a sex thing?
Oh my god, I fully thought that, like, no, because Jackie's like, how old would you have been when you had her?
Yeah.
He thinks that,
But if
she thinks that he had, like, a daughter as a teenager. Anyways, and then she calls in Mickey, or...
Mickey runs in and hugs Rose,
which
and
is,
then...
it's kind of funny because it's like...
But then Jackie is like, come on, Mickey. No, my thing is...
How old is he?
How old is he? And how old was she when they started dating?
See, I think that's a not Russell T Davies writing this show
the
thing.
problem is it retroactively makes Mickey a groomer.
Yeah, because he's at least 5.
He's at least like 5. He's physically, the actor is like 7 or 8 years old. I'm gonna be lenient and say he might be 6.
Yeah.
Meaning that 19-year-old Rose is dating a 25-year-old?
Yeah, which is fine, but then you remember that they've been dating for a while?
Meaning that he was like in his early to mid-20s dating a high schooler.
Yeah. Which I don't think that's what happened.
I
think this
know.
is the problem with this specific episode. And they did it. I think the only reason they added this in was as a joke, because, like, even in the past, Mickey will cling on to Rose.
But they retroactively made Mickey a groomer! And I don't like it! Leave my boy alone!
They could have taken that scene out and it wouldn't have changed anything.
Like, if you really wanted to include Mickey, have a little baby. Like, have his, like, grandma be there with baby Mickey, and then baby Mickey and baby Rose are like, oh, goo goo gaga, like, something. Don't make him a physical child.
It makes me wonder if the writer and, like, director watched the episodes, because it is very clear that Rose and Mickey are, like, the same age in the episodes. They're both... He does not look like a 25-year-old. They both look like 19-year-olds getting chips.
Yes, and, like, the way he acts.
They're both 19-year-olds.
That made me, like, so angry rewatching it.
It's like, it was such a random thing that, like, the writer probably thought he was being so clever or something, being so funny, but it's like, it doesn't make any sense, and it really takes you out of the episode. It's such a dumb detail, but it takes you out of the episode, because you're like, wait a second, Mickey's not that much older than her.
And she's, like, literally, like, non-verbal baby. Like, she's barely a year by the looks of it.
It's so funny, though, when, Jackie finally, like, she's, like, still grilling them, and he's like, are you stupid? Like, can you not recognize your own daughter? And she's like, huh? Which is understandable, because this is another part of, like, ironic, what was it called? Like, would the audience know something that the person doesn't? So it just, see, because we know that she's her daughter. Jackie, why would Jackie know this? Why would Jackie believe this? This teenage girl.
He's 22 in 22. The first episode.
That's like, not that, that's like 2-3 years.
It's one of those things where it depends on when they started dating.
Yeah.
Because regardless, if they started dating when she was 18, he would have been 20, which is a bit gross.
I mean, if she just graduated.
Yeah,
it's not good. I don't think, they don't seem like a couple that's been dating forever, but at least since, like, for a year or two.
I hope that's all it is, because I don't want him to be, like, the grade 12 that, like, preys on the grade 9s, because that's what the age is starting to feel like, and I don't want that for Mickey. He's too much of an idiot.
Yeah, I don't think they meant to. I think they just picked ages.
Yeah.
It's weird that they made him 22 and not her age.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Not important.
Maybe I'll continue. I'll double check the ages. Talking about,
Oh yeah, because, like, why would Jackie believe that this adult daughter is hers? Like, they didn't spend any time explaining time travel to her. But anyway, she goes with it. She's like, oh my god, like I can't believe I didn't recognize my own daughter. And the doctor comes. They're talking. They're back in the main area of the church, and Jackie's like, Rose, come and look at you. And she goes to hand her baby Rose, and the doctor's like, don't do it!
Yeah.
You'll erase everything!
Okay, I just want to read to you what it says on the Doctor Who wiki, because this really just kind of... Oh. Mickey Smith was born to Odessa and Jackson Smith around 1983, although he once indicated he's merely a year older than Rose, placing his birth around 85. Family lore held that on the day Rose Tyler was born, around early 1986, Mickey visited her in hospital. By other accounts, Rose was born on the 27th of April, 1987, and on the 7th of November, 87, he briefly encountered the adult version of Rose, though they had minimal contact. He ran up to Rose and clung onto her leg.
That was not a 3-year-old.
Rose hypothesized that she had just imprinted on him. Okay,
gross.
Jacob.
That's a gross joke to make, too.
Yeah, so...
Either way, that was not a 3-year-old.
No, that actor was clearly, 8. If you want... See, that's the thing, is maybe this is one of those cases, they should have out loud said, oh, Mickey's, just turned 3, and he's really just hugging everybody. That is one of those cases where, you need to... you know how in, Glee, they'll constantly mention that they're only 16, even though the actor's clearly, 28? You need to remind people, because if we're going to take it at face value, again, we've just made Mickey a groomer.
We just made him, 30 years old.
It's really bad.
When he's clearly not. I don't even think the actor was 30 when they were filming.
No.
They both look really young.
Sorry, that pissed me off so much watching it, and now I'm just, learning new information and fucking boggled.
So, I think we've made it halfway through the episode, and, this is when I think it starts to actually make... Because, so, the Doctor explains the paradox rule, how Rose can't touch or, physically touch her younger self, or it'll cause a paradox. Which, they always bring that up in time travel stuff. I'm like, is that how that works? Touching? You're in each other's space. Does touching really make that much of a difference?
Yeah.
It doesn't change. Whatever. That's just a...
That's a whole other
That's
conversation.
a thing that people... That's a common trope. But, this is when the Doctor, I think, starts to feel more in character because there's a part where the bride and groom, I think, are talking to him and they're, scared and she's pregnant and, he makes a comment about how he can tell that she's pregnant because he's got doctor vision or something.
I think she's visibly pregnant.
Yeah.
And I love, this is, one of the things I love about this is a great, doctor being the doctor, because one of them says something about, I know we're just ordinary people and we don't matter much, and the Doctor is no, fucking wait a minute.
He's I don't care how ordinary you are, I'm making sure you make it to the honeymoon kind of thing. It's a very sweet, little speech that he gives.
And he, asks how they met, and, they met, on, a one-night stand, and they, they say something about, kissing in the rain or something like that, and they went up to her apartment, and
the Doctor specifically, the reason he is so interested and, cares about humans is because he can never he literally says, that's something that I'll never be able to have. It's such
and that's so, extraordinary.
Yeah.
You guys aren't, boring or whatever.
For them, it doesn't feel like a unique experience, but for the Doctor, it's very unique. And I think the way he is so soft with humans is very sweet.
Yeah.
And it really comes out, in this episode. Especially when later, when he realizes that he doesn't have a plan and he starts panicking because he feels like he's let all these people down. And I don't remember, but I think the people are it's okay. They're now helping him feel better, kind of, what's the word, comforting him.
Yeah. So he has the TARDIS key, and he's plugged the TARDIS key into the air and is materializing the TARDIS around the key, right? And he's no one can touch it, it's gonna fuck everything up. But like you said, Jackie or Pete forces baby Rose onto adult Rose, and that paradox allows the Reapers
that's the
in.
part where Jackie realizes that, because he's can't you see, this is your daughter? And it's no, you sound insane.
Babies don't look like anything. They are just blob creatures. What are you talking about?
And I think obviously Rose kind of just had to take it, otherwise
what's she gonna do, drop herself?
Eat herself across the floor.
This is the one
I was waiting for the Doctor to smack her in the head.
He just smack the baby like a drink out of her hand.
I think Is this before or after there's a scene where Rose is like talking to people and she walks over to where the doctor is and the doctor's just hanging out with little Rose?
Yeah, he's like, "You're not gonna grow up to ruin this timeline, are you?" And Rose is like, "Really?"
I think that was really sweet. It's kind of funny how they play off this because like the doctor's just hanging out with the baby version of his
Rose
friend.
and just roasting her to her tiny self. I think it's so petty and so funny. But so baby Rose gets hoisted into adult Rose's hands. The Reapers burst in. This is one part that really made no sense to me. The doctor goes, "Get behind me, I'm the oldest thing in the room," and then the Reaper eats him. And then, what was his defense plan? What does him being the oldest thing in the room have to do with anything?
What it seems like is that he would be the last one, because if the reason that they're saving the church is because it's the oldest thing in the area, he would be the last one to be eaten.
Yeah.
Which, again, what does the oldest thing have to do with anything? But then he gets eaten immediately.
And then they just start going after people, and you're like, so what was the point?
And then this is... I know they had to get the doctor out of the way because now he's like, oh crap, I don't know how to save these people. I've like let everyone down. And this is like an episode where the doctor's not the hero.
No.
In fact, Rose isn't even... They both
of them
messed
fucked up big time.
Pete, which is... In this episode, it makes sense because it sets up Pete to be like the hero, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when he like looks out the window and sees the car going back and forth, and he's like, "Oh crap, that's the car that's been following me all day."
Yeah.
And then that's when he goes up to Rose and like gets her to confess that he dies today, and that he was never like he wasn't a good father because he wasn't there, like he didn't do any of the stuff that she lied about.
Yeah.
And that's when he has that moment of like, I can do this for you.
The thing that makes me laugh just a little bit about this part, is as beautiful and emotional as it is because he has to essentially recreate his death to reset everything. He has to take the vase. He's just like
I will say they spent a little bit too long between the plan falling apart to Pete figuring, like there's way too much time in between Pete looking out the window. It's like he should have realized it a little bit, or at least they could have cut down how many people got eaten.
Yeah,
because you were like kind of waiting for him to make this, like, have this revelation, and it takes so long.
He's not the smartest cookie in the box, I guess. So, but he takes his vase and he runs out, and the doctor appears beside Rose
after he dies.
He's not dead yet. He's in the process of dying because the doctor goes, "Go to him," and then Rose goes and she dies. He dies in her arms, basically. And what I love about this is we then get the flashback again.
Where things have changed.
Things have changed not only because in the beginning Jackie talks about how it was a hit and run, so they had no idea who killed Pete. And he died alone. In this version, it was a medical student who immediately got out and was, like, helping them. He confessed everything. It was just an accident, and Pete didn't die alone. So he still had to die, but it was in a significantly less tragic way. Not only was he not alone, the person who did it is no longer, like, an asshole hit and run kind of thing. It, like, remained an event that occurred, but it reframed it completely. And I think that was a really interesting way of doing it, is it's not...
Yeah, because they could have made it really tragic where everything has to go exactly the way it is.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's not what the Reapers want. They just needed the person to die.
Yeah.
Because, like the doctor says earlier, is that if he doesn't die, there's one more person in the world, and it makes a lot more of a difference than people think. So, like, him having to die, that's all they needed. And the fact that they were allowed to change the circumstances of the death is an interesting... It's like death is inevitable, but you get to choose how to go out.
It's one of those things where, and, you know, as much as, like, some of the framing and stuff in this episode has been kind of on the weaker side, one of the things that I think is so very Doctor Who is the importance of every single life. Yeah. Like, that's one of my favorite things.
Even if that means that they have to die.
Like, that's one of my favorite things about Doctor Who, period, is you matter. Like, you watching the show matter, because even though you may think you've never done a damn thing with your life, if you didn't exist, things would be so different.
If Pete didn't die, Rose wouldn't have been... Like, Rose's upbringing would have been completely different. She would have never met the doctor.
No.
Like, even though his existence was literally just to create Rose or whatever,
Yeah.
like have her exist, like that's still an important thing.
It's kind of like a bizarro version of It's a Wonderful Life. Like, it feels like, because you've seen It's a Wonderful Life, right? Where it's like, he finds out that if he hadn't existed, because he thinks he's not done a damn thing with his life, but then he finds out that his brother would have died as a teenager, and like the building alone would have been taken over by Mr. Potter and all this other stuff. It's kind of like a version of that, where it's like, one person, even if they haven't tangibly made a difference, like they haven't become prime minister, they haven't invented the cure to cancer, they've done so much just in their day-to-day life.
In the way that they've helped other people.
It's just like you look at in history, elections that have been won and lost by one vote. Like, if you happen to vote for one political party over another and they were literally at a tie except for one vote, now all of history has changed because one person is different.
Pete could have been the reason that someone won an election.
Yeah, Pete could. Well, come on, in the again jumping forward, but in the version where Pete's alive, Cybermen happen.
Yeah, and he's like a billionaire inventor.
Like,
Spoilers
for
that like episode.
Like 1,000 years in the future, and like I think the only time that in the last episode when Jackie is trying to talk Rose out of going back to help the doctor, Rose says to Jackie, "Do you remember there was a blonde woman that sat with Dad while he was dying? That was me." Could you fucking imagine, like, being told that?
I feel like Jackie probably would have felt like a terrible mother.
Yes. I was thinking about that because I was like, most of the episodes, whether they were consequential in the moment or not, do kind of come back in that last couple episodes. Like, we talked about how in the long game, like, you're like, oh my god, this episode is so silly. Satellite 5 is the final, like, place of battle for the season finale. The Daleks come back after we re-meet them in Dalek. Captain Jack comes back after, you know, like the empty child, like all this other stuff, right? It's all of these episodes are required for like the final episode, and then like this episode's reason was essentially for Rose to be able to show Jackie how important what she's been doing is. Like, it's not just, I haven't just fucked off and I'm going around, like, I've been doing some shit, including making sure Dad didn't die alone.
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting how, and I think it's one of the stronger points of this, of, like, Russell T Davies' style of writing versus Moffat's later, is, in the moment, everything doesn't feel like the end-all and be-all of time and space and everything. But then later you're like, oh, like, this episode wasn't just an episode. Like, it did connect to it, but I just didn't know it in the moment because I was just enjoying an episode. Whereas with, like, a lot of Moffat's writing, it's...
Every episode is like the world is about to end.
It's like, he has to wink at the camera. He has to go, remember this for later because it'll be important. Like, you can watch an episode of Doctor Who, be like, that was a fun episode, and then you watch the finale and you're like, oh, that's how...
Which is how television, like, should be written.
Yeah, it's not like a massive, like, wink and a nudge to be like, make sure you're paying attention because you'll need this information for later.
It's just treating your audience like you're dumb. So I just read a bit on the Wikipedia. This was like a review from some random guy who said that the part where the Doctor tells two ordinary people how important their lives are, he didn't like it because it was cheesy and disconnected from the rest of the story.
What?
Like, what are you talking about? That's an important part of the Doctor's
character. Yeah.
It's him reassuring that two normal people, that they are important.
Yeah.
Like,
what a character.
And he said that it disconnected from the rest of the story, but those are characters within the story.
Yeah.
The story is not just Rose and Pete. Like, the other characters in the story are just as in danger as the rest of them.
And that's, like, always been part of Doctor Who, is even though Rose and the Doctor, or, like, the companion
They're
and the
the
Doctor
important
are like, our main focus, everyone around them is affected by their actions and therefore are just as important. Like, even you look at, like, again, like, just talking about, like, something like Satellite 5, like, the main players are the Doctor, Rose, and Cassandra. But every single person on that satellite is affected. Yeah, on Satellite 5.
Oh, right. I thought you were talking about
The finale?
No, I thought you were talking about the media one.
No, that's Long Game.
Yeah, what was that satellite called? The satellite wasn't that also called satellite?
Oh.
No, you said the wrong satellite.
What am I thinking of?
The second episode. I know
Wasn't it also Satellite 5?
was it called?
Didn't he say something about how it was refurbished or something?
I think so, but I don't know if that's what they. I don't know. I don't remember. I was confused because there's like 3 different Satellite 5s now.
Yeah. But anyway, when they're on the thing watching the end of the world, we'll say that then. Even though the Doctor, Rose, and Cassandra are obviously the main players, the lives of everyone on that satellite are still important. They're working to save them. Like, the fact that they're kind of peripheral to the story isn't unimportant. They're why they're trying to save everything. Mm. Like, that's a weird take to have.
It's a bad take, Robert Smith.
Calling you out.
Yes, it makes it look
Platform
so
1.
It was Platform 1.
Okay, it was, yeah. My bad. I just assumed it was the same satellite because they used the same sets for everything. I just assumed that it would have been it's a satellite, so we'll just reuse the satellite set.
But it's not a set, it's like CGI.
Yeah.
The episode ends with like the voiceover, and then like Jackie talking to Rose. Is that how it ends? Or is that because I think they just leave, and then that's kind of it. Because that whole thing is that Rose like mysterious, like while Rose is comforting Pete as he dies, she looks up and the Doctor's like standing on the other side of the car, basically waiting for her. Mm-hmm. And then they walk off together.
Yeah, I'm assuming hand in hand.
I would have wrote it down. I think they were holding hands as they walked into the TARDIS. I'm like almost certain.
When are they not holding hands? I feel like we're a little all over the place with this one, but there was a lot to talk about.
Father's Day, Doctor Who, last scene. Well, second last scene. Oh yes, and this was a good scene for or a good episode for the monologues, like emotional, because right before Pete, because Rose realizes what Pete's about to do, mm-hmm. and she's like, no, you can't do, I just saved your life, and he's like,
yeah.
His speech is him saying, no one else has ever had these extra hours, what you gave me, a chance to actually meet my daughter and, talk to you, mm-hmm. is so important. No one else has ever gotten that chance.
Yeah.
So, even though he's about to die, he's, grateful.
Yeah.
And he's telling her, this has to happen, but just take solace in the fact that we got to have this moment.
It's one of those things that it's what we were saying, Pete doesn't have to be a great guy to be a good person, mm-hmm. and he's clearly someone who loves deeply regardless of all of his flaws and is just doing his best. But it's very genuine. I think that's one of the things, regardless of the flaws in character writing or some of the issues that I have with the directing and stuff like mm-hmm. that, the meat of it is very sweet.
Yeah.
It's a story of a girl who never got to meet her dad, who gets to meet him and essentially give him a redemption through his death.
Yeah.
Because he goes from being a nobody that dies in an accident to someone who willingly saves the planet, essentially, and sacrifices himself, not for himself, but because he's I got something that in reality I wouldn't have gotten, and now I can die happy knowing that I'm dying to make sure that you, my beautiful daughter, who I now see grows up to be this amazing woman, can be the amazing woman that you are. That in and of itself is a very strong and passionate thing to have. It just is a little bit funky around the edges.
Yeah, the beginning definitely could have been reworked a little better. Mm-hmm. I think that Rose has to stop traumatizing herself.
Seriously, though.
But the first time, the second episode... Oh, wait, what happens in the first episode?
The first episode was plastic.
She almost dies.
Yeah.
Second episode, she watches the world get consumed by the sun.
Uh-huh.
Several episodes where she almost dies.
Mm-hmm.
Is almost murdered by reanimated corpses.
Yep.
And yet... maybe this is why she's desensitized them. And she watches her dad die twice.
bestie.
Her and the Doctor are made for each other, really.
I will say too, not always do they get parent casting really well.
Oh my god, they look so much like her parents.
Pete, the actors they cast to play Rose's parents, I don't know what it is, but you're like, yes, 100%.
I think it's literally just because they look like your friend's dad.
Exactly.
Like, he's bald. He's just a dude wearing an ill-fitting suit. Like,
yeah.
He looks like a person.
I love, in this season especially, and maybe it's just because I'm a big fan of David Tennant, everyone just looks like people in this season. Like, no one's, like, other than obviously Billie Piper being hot as hell, you're like, yeah, she looks like a hot girl from the 2000s, but everyone just looks like human beings.
Yeah.
Like, the only person that's, like, abnormally, conventionally attractive is Captain Jack, and they make a joke out of it.
Like, that's because he's, like, the token American. Like, the token strong-jawed
literally
American.
looks like a Ken doll.
Yeah.
And you're just like...
I think that's so funny. This is just an off-topic thing. When, like, European, specifically British productions, like, you know when American productions cast the British people as super hot? Mm-hmm. But the British productions do the same with, like, Americans.
But it's a joke?
No, but it's, like, because you have John Hamm in Good Omens. Like,
yeah.
Other than, oh my god, what's his name? The actor that plays the dad in that one scene. In the beginning of Good Omens, where he's playing Nick
Offerman.
Nick Offerman. Other than him, because he's only in like one scene. Having John Hamm as like the token strong-jawed hot American is so funny. And then they have Jack in Doctor Who as like the token hot American.
Yeah.
It's so funny because American productions do the exact same. It's funny, as much as they like Americans and British people like. On each other.
They also fetishize each other.
They always cast each other as the hot token character.
I will say it's funny the way that American productions cast hot British people versus how British productions cast hot American people. Because hot British people are Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah.
It's slender and like suited, and they got like the cheekbones. They got the
posh accent.
And then like.
The hot Americans are just like
square head and like wide.
Classic Hollywood actor.
Yeah, it's just like Cary Grant again, and you're just like, well, I don't know.
And are they wrong?
Yeah, and then Canadians get hockey players.
Oh my god! No one ever cast more hot Canadians in your movies.
Please, where's Keanu Reeves? And he needs to be in everything.
Ryan Reynolds does not count. He's been in enough.
No, I don't even think Ryan Reynolds is particularly attractive.
He's not the strong-jawed, like Canadian hot whatever.
Cast Simu Liu. You know what? If we're going for strong-jawed, square head, go for Simu Liu. I'll take that as our token Canadian hot person. We'll send him out.
Attractive hot.
Yeah.
That's because when people think of hot Canadians, they just think of either hockey players or...
Justin Trudeau.
No, I was going to say, like, countrymen in plaid shirts.
I was going to say, have you watched Letterkenny?
Yeah, Letterkenny.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're just going to send out...
the guy, the strong... Wayne? Is his name? It's been a while since I've watched the show. I can't remember his name. I watched clips the other day of it.
We'll send him out, and he'll be like, "How are you now?" And that'll be the end of it. Oh my god, the idea of the cast of Letterkenny fighting Doctor Who aliens. Fuck, that's so funny.
This is why I'm saying they need to put more...
my god.
If they get, oh my god, Ryan Gosling and Doctor Who, like,
I'm gonna cry.
I will be so happy. He is the token hot Canadian. They need to put in Doctor Who.
I'm the mental image of the cast. Like Squirrely Dan, like squaring up against like the fucking Daleks, and he's like just big hulking man being like, "Shut up!"
Aggressive Canadian accent.
Just the most intense. Or the little gay goth guy. Stuart is the Cyberman Stuart.
I just think because like this is like breaking Doctor Who news, recent news is like that Ryan Gosling is in talks to maybe be in Doctor Who.
Please, I would cry.
There aren't enough. Have there ever been like a Canadian character or even a Canadian actor in Doctor Who?
I don't know.
We're literally part of the
Commonwealth. If we have to say we value your monarchy, put us in Doctor Who.
Yeah. Americans don't care about that.
No,
they get to be in the show.
This is not fair. No,
Ryan Gosling. I'm starting the campaign. Put Ryan Gosling in Doctor Who. Let him be as Canadian as possible.
Aggressive.
Physically
Like, I want him to
possible.
be a stereotype. I want him to be a lumberjack that's introduced swigging
there is
maple
no
syrup
other
out of
country,
the jar.
I think, that would be happy with a stereotype as Canadians would be.
I would be ecstatic.
It's not wrong.
No!
I watched Letterkenny and I'm like, I know people like that.
Literally, I want them to, like, land in, like, buttfuck nowhere, in, like, the TARDIS lands sideways in a tree, and then they like, open the door, and Ryan Gosling's like, how are you now? A little stuck up there, eh? Like, that is all I want, and then he's got, like, a chainsaw on the back of his, like, Ram pickup truck, and he has to, like,
Guys, he's got, like, a giant hook. He's like, do you think this will work?
Yeah. He's got, like, a large German Shepherd hanging out the back of his car. Like, I just want it to be as, like, grossly stereotypical. Like, if it was any other country, I want it to have been offensive.
Yeah.
But, like, for us, it would just be hilarious.
Because it would be hilarious to us. It would be hilarious to everyone. Because everyone likes making fun of Canadians. And I can't not, like, hate it. Because it's true. And it's funny every time.
Yes. I would love that.
So this is my pitch to Russell T Davies.
Yes.
Put Ryan Gosling in, make him as stereotypically Canadian as possible.
Yes.
Make him like a dumb hockey player himbo.
100%.
I don't care. Put him in there.
I'm trying to remember his name. There's a character in Shoresy, the spinoff of Letterkenny.
Yeah.
He's like an indigenous guy. And I'm trying to remember his name because Shoresy is always like, fuck off! And that's like the only thing he says to him. And he's like the most, I only watched the first couple episodes, so maybe his character changes, but he's just like the most normal guy. Like, he's just like an indigenous dude who wants to play hockey and all of these dumb white Canadians, and he's just like...
The dumb himbos.
I want Tanis in Doctor Who.
I think Ryan Gosling would be a great dumb himbo hockey player. I don't want that to be our introduction to Doctor Who, though. Like,
no.
Canadians, I want it to be I want it to be a stereotypical, like, man from cottage country, Ontario.
I would love to have the actress who plays Tanis in Doctor Who, because she's very, very talented, but also she, like, takes no shit, and I really think the Doctor needs, like, a take no shit indigenous auntie in the TARDIS, because,
God, that'd be incredible.
That'd be amazing!
We had to go down that Canadian speak. Literally, like, a third of the episode is us trying to pitch Canadian Doctor Who.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Blue Box Banter. You can find us on Tumblr, Instagram, and YouTube under the username Blue Box Banter Podcast. New episodes release Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Music. Thanks again for listening, and have a fantastic day.